next year we'll be gathering in person. And I want to begin with a prayer for this annual meeting. Almighty and ever-living God, source of all wisdom and understanding, be present with those who take counsel in St. Timothy's Episcopal Church for the renewal and mission of your church. Teach us in all things to seek first your honor and glory. Guide us to perceive what is right, and grant us both the courage to pursue it and the grace to accomplish it through Jesus Christ our Lord.
Amen.
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 So our first order of business tonight is to approve the minutes of the 2021 annual meeting. All this stuff was available to you. I don't know if you... The music going.
I think it's Dan.
Roger, I cannot imagine why you want these Zoom meetings to end. There's always something.
As I said, you should have received the minutes from the 2021 annual meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Tom Habig. Any further discussion? Although in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Okay.
Great. So one of the things I've learned on these Zoom meetings is that it would be real nice if everybody muted themselves unless they need to speak. That way there's less interference in what's going on. That's about, you're going to get the sum total of my knowledge of Zoom tonight. Sammy is actually the host of this meeting, so she'll be monitoring people who arrive later on and make sure they're part of the crew. So our next order of business is to elect wardens in vestry. And for those of you who don't know, the custom of the congregation is that the person that is served as junior warden, you can be elected to a one-year term as warden or senior warden, and it's renewable by 1 year. The custom was that the person who had served as junior warden would then become senior warden. So for the first order of business is I would like Stephen to make a motion to that Jane Holzer be elected senior warden by a vote of acclamation. Stephen, would you make that motion, please?
I definitely make that a motion. I mean that as because Jane will be a fantastic successor, and not because I'm anxious to leave.
Is there just raise your hand if there's a second.
I second it.
Carol Martin. All those in favor signify by raising your hand.
I don't think I can vote.
Great. All those opposed? Congratulations, Jane. Roger Green is now clapping. Good. Our junior warden candidate is Steve Mullins. Steve could not be here tonight. He is out of town and unavailable to join us via Zoom. Wouldn't that be a nice situation to be in? I need Stephen to make a motion to elect Stephen to a one-year term as junior warden.
I motion that Steve become the junior warden.
Is there a second? Ben Loomis. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. I'll extend our congratulations to Stephen. And again, he would be next year eligible to run for another term as junior warden, and Jane as another term as senior warden. And then you should have seen in your packet of stuff that we have 4 candidates for vestry. Mike Rutledge, Kathy Obie, Alex Graining, and Kristen Moser. And as you may recall, a few years ago, we altered our practice to what I found over the years was that running more than the allotted number of positions simply made for hurt feelings. People told me that it didn't matter, but I think it did. So I think what we've tried to do is to discern who to raise up to be in these positions. And then at the annual meeting, we simply elect them all by acclamation. And so I would like Stephen once again to make a motion to elect all 4 candidates to a 3-year term on the vestry. Stephen?
I motion to elect all 4 candidates to a 3-year term.
Is there a second to that? Tom Claney? Any further discussion? Raise your hand. All those in favor, raise your hand. There you go. Congratulations to Kristen, Mike, Kathy, and Alex. You'll be awesome, and thank you for your willingness to serve. So, in full disclosure, one of the things I realized I totally forgot to do, can't imagine why, was to enlist any folks to be diocesan convention delegates. Normally, we elect 4 people. In light of that, I will enlist 4 people, and then the vestry will serve to be the body that elects them. So I apologize for that. The diocesan convention this year is December 9 through 10. If any of you are chomping at the bit to go to diocesan convention, let me know. So the remainder of our time tonight is to receive a reflection on our ministry from the senior warden and Lisa and me. We'll then receive financial reports from Eric. He'll also just touch on the planned giving, which is Steve Mullen's responsibility, is that area of life. And then we'll close the meeting with some thank yous. So Stephen, I'm going to turn the time over to you.
All right. Well, it's good to see everyone. So the last time we met, I told you that my first in-person vestry meeting as senior warden was also the last time the vestry met in person. So who would have thought that after 2 years, we'd still be in a pandemic and the vestry would still not yet be meeting fully in person. We're not there yet, but I think it's coming soon. These past 2 months, and these past 2 years, have been very challenging to say the least. But when faced with challenges, I've witnessed that the St. Tim's community pulls together and steps up. As Roger said many times, there is no dependable plan during a pandemic. We have all had to adjust to a new reality and make the best of our situation. I believe we've navigated the pandemic well, and on behalf of the vestry, I'd like to thank each of you for your patience, your understanding, and all that you've contributed over the past 2 years. I'd like to spend just a few minutes highlighting some of the accomplishments from the past year, and then I'll hand it over to Roger to discuss where we're headed in 2022 and beyond. First, it took nearly 2 years, but Roger eventually figured out how to use Zoom. Or at least I thought he had. Sammy, you might need to work with him a bit more. But he no longer begins his meetings asking how to turn on the camera and how to use his microphone, so that's definitely progress. This year, we saw the return of the outdoor services and even moved inside as temperatures dropped. I remember attending an outdoor service where Lisa, who I can see in the audience right now, Lisa, you were wearing what looked like a spacesuit to me. And I seemed to be the only person who didn't know I was supposed to bring my own chair. It was cold, it was slightly raining, the wind made it very hard to hear, yet somehow it all worked. Everybody seemed happy, and it just felt great to be outside and to be enjoying this together. So the outdoor services will be back again this year, and I'm hopeful that they continue well into the future. I think we're on to something there. For the second year, our grassroots band showcased the musical talent within St. Tim's. The band, as they've come to be known, brings a unique and welcoming music experience to 9:15 service that I hope all you have enjoyed at some point this year. You may know that the original band was led by the late Levon Helm. He's a music legend. I like to think St. Tim's version of the band, led by another music legend in Wayne, is doing Levon proud. We continued our online services. At the Well has become a place where anyone from any location can worship with us. There are now members of St. Timothy's who know us only through At the Well and have never set foot in our building. I find that to be kind of amazing, and I'm excited that we've been able to extend our message beyond our physical walls. This is one of the good things that I think has come from the experience we've had to go through the last couple of years. We added a new staff member in 2021. Sammy joined us as communications lead and hit the ground running. You've likely already seen Sammy's talents in our newsletters, our website, our social media. She's also become a fixture at our Sunday services. It's hard to believe, Sammy, that you joined St. Tim's staff just last year, given how much you've already contributed. So thanks for everything you're doing. Eric Harbach was approached by the VW, yes, thank you. Eric Harbach was approached by the VW dealership with interest in purchasing the unused property that we own behind their building. After assessing the property, Eric, Roger, and the vestry decided that we had no current or future plans to use that property, which is mostly covered by honeysuckle. So Eric negotiated a deal to sell part of the property to the dealership for, and I don't know, I think it's an undisclosed amount to me right now. I don't know where we ended up. So maybe Eric can answer that. Eric, what was the final amount for that property purchase? Do you know?
You're muted, Eric.
It was 130,000 for roughly 1 acre that's directly behind the dealership.
Yeah, so I thought that was fantastic, given that when we walked that area, we realized it just wasn't useful to St. Timothy's, and to get that money was a real, I think, a plus for us. So thanks, Eric. And the money went directly into the endowment fund. But finally, you're likely aware that the 2022 finance budget forecasted a deficit of nearly $100,000. We were fortunate and quite surprised to have a St. Tim's member offer a matching donation challenge to help close the budget gap. I'm pleased to report that we are now only $4,000 short of our $100,000 goal and will likely exceed the goal. So we're truly blessed to be part of such a giving community. So you can see that while 2021 was difficult, it was also filled with great moments and significant accomplishments. I'm proud to have played a small role in these accomplishments, and I hope you are too. So it's been a pleasure serving you as senior warden these past 2 years and participating in such a thoughtful and talented vestry. I want to thank you again, and I'll pass over to Roger.
Thanks, Stephen. And thanks for your willingness to go through these last couple of years that have been so strange. It would be untrue for me to believe what Stephen says, that my job now is to tell you where we're headed, because I don't know where we're headed. And that's not to say that that's different than any other time really in the life of the church. You know, one of the things that happened right as the pandemic hit was that the vestry just had this meeting where we realized that our primary job as a vestry was to listen to where the Spirit was leading us, and that as we entered a new chapter of life, we needed to resist at all costs thinking we knew where this was going, or developing some sort of plan that really had nothing to do with what God was calling us to do. Little did we know that we'd enter a time where we would need to listen even more, because we were going into strange territory. But we're still in that strange territory. We're in a time where we're continuing to wait and listen for what the Spirit is calling us to do. But I do think that one new phase has developed in the last couple of months, that what we're beginning to see are signs of newness that might best be described as what happens when this time of year you see a plant just barely making its way out of the ground. That some things are starting to happen that may well give us an indication of where the future is going. And I want to just mention a few of those. One of the things we have missed over the last couple of years is children. Because of the pandemic, because of how that's impacted the kind of things we do with kids. Kids haven't been nearly as present as they were for many, many years. But the last couple of Sundays have seen a much larger contingent of kids at both 9, 15, and 11, and it's just been absolutely delightful. And these kids are kids that have been in the congregation a while, and these kids are kids of new families that are arriving. What a gift they are. And what a gift that during this whole pandemic time, God has continued to bring us new people. You know, new people are a constant reminder that God is renewing the church. God is sending you people who are going to take you in new directions, give you new energy and new vision. And that was true today. We had two new families. One had one kid, the other had a couple. And what this all means for where we go, I don't know, but it's just a sign, I think, of the fact that that new things are on the way. We even had new choir members today. Oh my gosh, the choir actually sang. You know, what would it be like to be Dan Parsley for the last 2 years, not being able to do what you're called to do? We actually had choir members sing today. There was more than just a soloist or a soloist and somebody else. And I don't know what that says about the future, but I think some of our choir members are willing to now come out and sing together, feeling a bit safer in that environment. The other thing I would mention is that new folks are stepping up to provide leadership. One of my delights is that as we have been navigating what to do with the young children, that the people working with them over the last several months are people that have not normally been working with children in this congregation, and many of them very new. And today, for example, Cassidy was down there helping them plant pollinators to care for God's creation. All of this is just a wonderful sign of something new afloat. The bell choir under Janet David's leadership is new. They played today, and it was wonderful. We've got new worship assistants, new acolytes, new greeters. One of the things I think that happened in the pandemic is that people who had done certain things for many years, they had the permission to stop doing it. And of course, what then happened is that others have picked up the ball. We've got new energy for supporting immigrants. We have a whole group of people who want to be involved with Afghan refugees and have been in the process of getting trained at Catholic Charities. Of course, Catholic Charities is reinvigorating their whole reason to be down there with refugees after several years of not being able to do that. So we'll see where that goes. We've got people involved with possibilities of tutoring at Mount Washington School. And we've had a whole reconnecting with the River City Correctional Facility under the leadership of John Rudolph and Jane Holster. We had people visiting people. Then, of course, the pandemic had ended, and that's all beginning to re-emerge. I mentioned last year that one of the great gifts of 2020 was the development of a whole team of pastors, of people who are keeping up with people, and all of these under the leadership of people like Deb Rasak, Deb Karotas, Donna Pasick, that our pastoral care has expanded and grown, and that just continues to happen. So I don't know what this really says about the future. I think that we have to be patient and see what God will do with these new little plants that are growing. And maybe one of the great lessons we've learned during this pandemic is that we really do have to wait for the Spirit's leadership and be patient, even when our patience starts to wear thin. And I think there's going to be some more months of that down the road. I'd like to turn the time over to Lisa just to say a few words before we get to Eric and some conversation about finances. Lisa.
Thank you, Roger. I feel like I'm part of the At the Well congregation that hasn't been to St. Timothy's in months. Oh, I have missed you all so much. And I thank you so much for all of the prayers and steadfast care for me and for our family. You guys are lifting me up when I'm down. And so it's great to be with you today. As you can see, I'm losing my hair a little bit. I'm a little bit more red. This intense chemo is a lot, but I wanted to write down Isaiah 43:19. This was one of the scriptures that Roger had been talking about. Behold, I am about to do a new thing. Do you not perceive it? And so we are just lifting up those things that God has been up to, as we have seen again, the adult spiritual formation has really taken off, and this wonderful shared leadership that we have. I also wanted to thank Melissa for her work as well with Cassidy for the children's spiritual formation. And it's an in-between time. And so we are grateful for those who are stepping up and stepping into this spot. Roger had asked me a little bit about sharing where I am on my journey and what's happening with me. As you know, I had said that I needed some time off until May because I started a new chemotherapy regimen. We had known the cancer was in my lungs as well as in my colon and liver. It's out of the colon and liver, and with the lungs, we're seeing a positive treatment response. And so in January, mid-January, I had a CT scan, and it showed that this chemo is effective, but it is really taking me out. It's been really difficult to just get through the day. Yesterday, I think I was awake for maybe 5 hours of the day. I slept the rest of the day away. And so it's just learning a different rhythm. And I'm grateful for your continued prayers, and continue. Go, Roger, go. You can do this. I'm so sorry that I know, right? I keep every Sunday morning, and we check in throughout the week just to see how the Spirit is flowing. But do know that I'm holding you all in prayer and cheering you on from afar, though I'm not able to be there. Sometimes I pop into worship and then I pop out quickly, but really grateful for your steadfast care for me and for our family, the meals, the prayers, the cards, the whole bit. And it's amazing because God is hearing your prayers. And so, as I said, we had this positive treatment response. We are going to keep going now until May. I have 5 more rounds of this really hard chemo, and it's all part of it. And then we'll have another scan, and I won't be a candidate for the aggressive chemo after this. This is kind of like the last aggressive chemo that I can do, which is a blessing and a curse, but we're hoping it does the job with the lungs, takes all that cancer out, and then I would just then be on a maintenance mode like I was on before, where I was able to come and preach and be part of the life and ministry of the congregation. So if you have any questions, let me know. Continue to hold Roger in prayer. We're so grateful for him and for his leadership with the youth as well, and newcomers, and all the things that you do. What a gift you are to this community. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Roger and thank him for all that he has done, and for the whole staff filling in, and for other people who are doing the job that I was called to do that I can't do in this time. So thank you for your care for the vulnerable in our midst. I'm grateful for all of you.
Thank you. We love you. I want to turn the time over to Eric. Eric, as you know, was senior warden, junior warden, and has been the finance chair for the last few years. And as in everything he does a great job. Eric, we're all yours, and just make sure you unmute yourself.
Okay, mission accomplished there. Thank you, Roger. I think, to start off, just to reflect on the fact that developing the budget, collaborative effort really with the staff, the finance committee, and the vestry. And I'm really thankful to all the members of those groups for their thoughtful and respectful consideration of the potential options we had to consider this year. I don't know if you have any of the charts available, but as far as from a trending standpoint, our revenue from 2016 through 2019 was relatively stable. And then of course, COVID hit and created about a 12% decline in our revenue. And that was about $90,000. And then with this year, there's still that impact of COVID coming. And it would appear, that we'd fall another $26,000, so another 4% decline. Now, some, I guess you might call it positive on the expense side with COVID, since our services were so shut down and minimal. There was some savings that occurred during that window of time where we were able to cut, utility expense, other types of expenses that helped out through that. But we still ran at a deficit, and a pretty substantial deficit. That we were helped with by the government with what they called their PPP program. So for the 2 different years, we received $60,000 a year. So $120,000 really helped go a long way to filling kind of the whole of the deficit we were facing. Coming into this year, as we budgeted originally for 2022, and based on what we had seen early on in pledging against the budget that we had devised for the year, we were going to come up about $100,000 to a negative. And so a lot of discussion was had between, the staff, the finance committee, and the vestry. And those discussions included options of cutting expenses, allowing a distribution from the endowment, or utilizing some of the liquidity that we do have currently. We do have, savings accounts and checking accounts that have some funding in them that we could lean into as well. Through those discussions, cutting the expenses at this point, it was a consensus feeling that we'd be really cutting to the bone if we started cutting the expenses that it would take to level out this budget. And the hope is that as we continue to come out of COVID, we will see pledging, start to return, and we won't be faced with a deficit of that type of size. The initial approval that went along with the budgeting process was to take a portion of that deficit and have it be funded out of the endowment, and a portion out of the liquidity that we have on hand. So roughly 50,000 would have come out of the liquidity we have on hand, and 45 to 50,000 would have come out of the endowment to help offset that deficit. But then with the grace of God and, a family that was very faithful to the church and wanted to step up and provide the matching challenge, really has erased that deficit for this year. I mean, we've got a little bit of room there that we got to cover, which we can cover easily out of the liquidity that we have on hand. But the last I knew, we were, when we were talking about a $95,000 to $100,000 deficit, there's about 91,000 that's covered now, and maybe a little bit more since I had the last update on that. So that is wonderful news, and that's kind of where we are as far as the budget. I know Roger mentioned about the land sale, and that did go into the foundation or endowment fund. So that $130,000 is in there, earning at market rates and everything as it's invested there. I think that's about all I have, Roger. I mean, if people have questions, I'm certainly open to answering any questions that might be available.
Any questions? Eric, I know Steve isn't here. Is there anything that you want to say about the foundation, or should I just refer people to ask him if they have any questions?
Probably was his comments. Have they been distributed, Roger?
They have been. He gave all the.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you take a look at the stuff you were sent, yeah.
I don't have anything beyond that, and I think it was highlighted in there as well that we changed who is handling the investing for us, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
So Stephen's done a great job with all of that, that transition and everything. So that's gone along very well. And really extra thanks to Peg and Kathy Mank. They've really been on top of things and been very helpful in all the process.
Super. Well, listen, Eric, as always, thank you so much for everything you've done in our financial world. Eric is really the collective memory now in our financial world. As you all, as most of you know, Jerry Eichert was heavily involved in that area during his time in this vineyard. And before Jerry went to his reward, Eric facilitated a transition in our finance department. It's just, the finance committee is just an awesome committee of faithful people that do the work God is calling us to do. Well, I want to close the meeting really recognizing retiring vestry wardens and saying a few words about the staff. I also want to say before I do that, she is not retiring. Jane Holzer is now our senior warden, and I'm so grateful for her faithful service to this congregation. And look forward to working with her and Stephen in the days ahead. Jane has a passion for the people of this place, wants to make sure all are cared for, and it's just a beautiful thing. This year we said goodbye on the vestry to Ashley Hart, Mimi Ruddle, Mike McKee, and Mike Thompson. And one of the things I said to them at our last meeting was that each of these people, what struck me, the thread that goes through all of them is just their endurance during the last couple of years for a whole host of reasons. Ashley Hart, of course, has a baby that's in Children's Hospital and will probably be there for maybe 2 years. And she continues to be a part of our life and prays for us and we for her. Mimi Ruddle's been part of this congregation longer than I've been here. My first wedding that I ever did, and is also the head of our Human Resources Committee. Mike McKee's been on the Communications Committee, still on the Finance Committee, and continue to do his work on those committees while raising kids and doing all the things that are so hard to do when you're in a lockdown. And Mike Thompson, same deal, raising 3 small children and being in the band and just being a wonderful human being. So I'm really grateful for all of those people. I already thanked Stephen, but just want to reiterate that one of Stephen's great gifts for us and for me is his ability to see the big picture and to ask the right questions. The questions that Roger isn't asking, Stephen asks, and that's been a great assistance to me. Stephen's going to continue to be involved in the buildings and grounds side of things moving forward. And Stephen, thanks again for all that you've done over these last years. It's hard to believe. It seems to me Stephen just showed up at St. Timothy's a few years ago, and before you know it, you're junior warden and senior warden. And then I want to just say a few words about the staff. We've alluded to the challenges of music in this environment, and we are so blessed to have an organist, John Crandall, who is just so adaptable, who plays a closing hymn at our 8 o'clock service, plays at 9:15 if the band isn't playing, plays for the 11 o'clock service, plays my funerals, my weddings. And for those of you who don't know, John became a member of the Episcopal Church several years ago after he'd come here for a while, then got married here. He and Mike got married, and he just loves this place and serves it so well. And again, it's just so adaptable. Of course, Dan has had just an impossible job, both here and at Thomas More. What would it be like to be in a field where the last couple of years, most of the things you want to do, you can't do. Most of the things you plan to do, you end up not being able to do. And I think I mentioned this last year, that one of the gifts that Dan has brought is an ability to help us see what the new is in our music world. And much of what has developed has been as the result of his encouraging me to just see what is going to happen. The band was not planned. It just one day emerged in the parking lot. And before we knew it, others were joining the band. And we've just continued to follow that and to see where it goes. We don't know, right now the band's playing inside. We're going to probably move outside at some point, but in that whole music part of our life, nothing is set in stone. And it's wonderful to have people that have the ability to adapt to where the Spirit takes us. In our administrative area, Eric mentioned Kathy Mank, who is our bookkeeper. Joyce Deese left in the fall, and boy, were we blessed by God for Kathy to arrive. She's a lifelong Episcopalian, deeply devoted to the Episcopal Church, on the diocesan council, very involved in this diocese in all sorts of ways, and helps out other congregations with various financial things. She's a CPA, she's sharp, and we are just greatly blessed to have her. And she just came out of the blue. I don't even think somebody mentioned something to her about something, and pretty soon we were interviewing her, and she was on board. And I encourage you to give her a word of thanks when you have a moment. And boy, am I grateful for Peg. Peg has been on the staff. She was on the staff for about a couple of years before the pandemic hit. And just about the time, I think, when she was kind of learning how we do things here, suddenly everything changed. Then she had hip surgery. Peg is just a tireless worker, dependable, reliable, down to earth, relates to people well. People have fallen in love with her, and is willing to do what needs to be done, even if in her area of life, in our building, we don't quite know where that's all going. The building for the longest time was kind of uninhabited. now people are re-entering both from the congregation and from other groups. She has oversight of that. She'll be working with Stephen and others on the building and grounds committee, and really grateful for her companionship and her willingness to adapt to all the uncertainty in our life. Stephen mentioned Sammy coming on board a year ago, and when we hired Sammy for this position, she'd been the chair of the communications committee and been very effective in that. And we had this hunch that she might be right for this role, but I never dreamed how right for this role she would be, and what impact she has had. First thing is, she understands the Episcopal Church and what our message is, and therefore reflects that to the online community. Is a faithful witness of that. She was all worried in the beginning that she'd do things that wouldn't be consistent with what we are or with what I want to communicate, and that's just not the case. She's just on her own. It took a while for her to trust that, but she certainly trusts that. She does our online service, she does the e-news, she does all the social media stuff. And she's bringing creativity to new ways of having people in this congregation communicate with each other. You've probably seen over the last few weeks her Let Your Light Shine series, asking parishioners to share what they do, and celebrating the ways that people love this community and serve it, often in ways that people don't know. And she's also very good at putting up with me, which I think is a really important. Yeah, you're nodding your head now, aren't you? Okay. So again, grateful for all those in our office, the music folks, and then of course the clergy. Ellen, like Mimi Ruddle, has been here longer than I've been here. Ellen not only serves as deacon here, but was on the standing committee, was the chair of the president of the standing committee, involved in the deacon school, and just a very faithful, insightful person in the life of the church that brings a lot of wisdom from her own life and from her career and from her faithfulness and her dedication to the gospel. And of course, she's with us every Sunday at the 11 o'clock service. She does the prayers almost every Sunday online. And when I listen to the online service, or when she does the prayers at 11, and they begin, "Dear God," I just always smile. I just think, yeah, she has helped us to give voice to God about what we are longing for, our struggles, and really doing what a deacon should be doing, bringing that stuff to God as she senses it in our common life. So Ellen, I'm extraordinarily grateful for your commitment and for your love all these years. And of course, I just have to mention, thanks be to God, Dave, who's married to her, that their whole tag team duo on the online service is just priceless. And finally, when it comes to the staff, of course, Lisa, people have asked me, after Lisa had to step out of things in November, well, would this be too much to do and all of that? And there's a lot to do, but as I've said from the very beginning, the thing I miss is her companionship in this, her conversations along the way in this. And for a while, we didn't do much of that when she was away, but we were starting to do more of that. that means a great, great deal to me. I made no secret of the fact that when she came on board back in 2019, what a gift that was to me after a season in which most of the staff had moved on. Boy, it just was the beginning of a new chapter. And but you know, the other thing is that even though Lisa has been away from her responsibilities here, you know, really, that's just not really the case, I don't think. I think her willingness to share her journey through her Caring Bridge site and to be so honest and transparent about what she's going through is just the best kind of ministry, because all of us are wondering how to deal with our mortality, how to deal with things that come along that we just wished had never happened, and why doesn't God do something about it now? And she's just so willing to give expression to all of that, the ups, the downs, and to really model for us, I think, a way to relate to God that is healthy and life-giving. So, you know, I can't wait for her to return, and I just keep badgering God daily about this. But I had to really laugh last year when I looked at the minutes of last year, and I was talking about Lisa, and I said, and finally, Lisa, we are so glad you didn't die. That's the way I felt then, and that's the way I feel now. You know, when it all gets down to it, you know, we want her to live and to thrive and with more life. She has more to offer. So we are so grateful. I am so grateful that she is alive. You know, I just hope, Lisa, that you and I have a more time together. I've told her husband that I'm madly in love with her, so this is full disclosure with her spouse. But it's just been a privilege to be with you on this journey, both before your illness and after. And I just pray that God will continue to use her in the days ahead. And finally, as we close out this meeting, you know, I'm just so grateful for this congregation. You know, I say this every year, but I just don't really know how to put into words how grateful I am for the privilege of being a part of this community, the privilege of serving you and being served by you. And in some ways last year, I really can't explain this, was one of the most extraordinary years, not just because it was COVID, but extraordinary because of learning in a deeper way than I've ever learned that we really do need to trust the Spirit to lead us. And the Spirit will do that. And whenever Lisa and I would get together, we would just keep talking about how Ruach, the Hebrew word for spirit, how Ruach had hit again, that the Spirit had raised somebody up to help us out. The Spirit had opened a door. So I'm looking forward to the coming year and what the Spirit will do with us. I'm also looking forward to the Sunday when I don't have to wear a mask. I'm not sure when this will be. I don't think it's too far down the road. But you know, one of the great losses of this time has been not to see your faces. They are beautiful faces. They're the face of God. They're the face of the vitality of what God has done in this world. And it's great to see you now, but I don't want to see you on Zoom without your mask. So thanks for all of your support for me. If there's anything I can do to support you along the way, please let me know. And thanks again for loving God and loving this world. And we're going to close our meeting with Lisa giving us a closing blessing.
So now may the peace of God, which passes all understanding, keep your hearts and minds in the knowledge and love of God and of his Son, Jesus Christ, our Lord, and the blessing of God Almighty, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, be among you and remain with you this night and always.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you for all you do, and enjoy the rest of your night. Love you a bunch.
Thanks, Roger.
Thank you.